Hello, everyone. My name is Chelsea Utek, expat and speculative fiction writer. This has been a tough week with a lot of rejections, and normally I take rejections pretty well, as well as can be expected. But it just so happened to be that it was a lot all at once. I didn't get into pitch wars, and I had two short stories come back and two rejections from agents. So it was just normally it would be, weeks on end without anything, and this week was real rough. So today I want to talk about something that I need to remind myself of, but also perhaps some of you out there need a reminder as well, and that is how do we maintain or build, if that's where you're at, accountability for our writing. We've decided we want to write. Check. Easy part done. Now we actually have to keep writing through long days, bad moods, stressful times, and especially through the rejections that will come. How do we keep writing? So I put together 6 steps to keep yourself and myself accountable for the writing practice. The first step is to build appreciation for its importance. And I say build an appreciation because it needs to start with you appreciating how important it is to make time for your writing. You can do this mentally, but I find it helpful to have some sort of tangible way to see that your writing is important to you. So it always goes at the top of my to-do list. All of my writing tasks are listed first, and then underneath I might have my work and household or whatever other tasks have to get done that day. Does that mean I always do it first? No, absolutely not. But every time I return to my to-do list, I see that it is a top priority. Now, top priority might just mean that it's on the top of my list, but that's something. That's a good start. The next step is to convey this to others. Talk about your writing often and talk about it proudly, because that's how they're going to see how important it is to you. Don't just assume that they already know. And then follow through with your actions. If you tell people that you have set aside this time for writing, then you don't need to succumb to the pressure of changing those plans to go out and be social or do something for someone else. You've told them that this is important to you, and it's okay to follow through on that. The second step is to engage in the writing community. This is a great way to build support and accountability for your writing. Back home, there was no shortage of writer meetups, be it in cafes or libraries or on campuses. When I moved overseas, this got a little bit harder. If there was the rare writer meetup, it maybe wasn't in my native language of English. So if physical meetups aren't your jam or aren't possible for you, then you can also do this online. There's a big writer community on Twitter, although I'm much more of an Instagram girl. You could be on YouTube and be part of the writing community there. Or, despite my last video, there are lots of writing challenges if that's something that works for you. And your writing community also doesn't need to be big. You could just find yourself a writing buddy. Unfortunately, the writing buddy that I found here in Tbilisi is a very interesting lady, so we end up chatting more than writing often, but it's still really great. She keeps me accountable, she cheers me on, I get to look at her writing, and it really motivates me to write more. So no matter how you decide to engage in the community, there are lots of different ways. You need to find somebody else who finds this important and can cheer you on, and you can return the favor by cheering them on. Step 3 is to eliminate distractions. Now, I wrote eliminate distractions on my paper, but eliminate might be kind of wishful thinking on my part. So let's just talk about lessening distractions first. First, you have to figure out what your distractions are for you. Maybe you know off the top of your head. Because I can tell you right now, my big distraction is my phone and doing additional research for my writing. What I did for my phone was I installed this wonderful app called Forest. And this app lets you plant trees in your garden by setting a timer. And the timer is how long are you going to not look at your phone for? And what happens if you do leave the app is it plants this dead tree and you don't get your gold coins. That wasn't a big enough motivator for me, so I paid I think it's $2, perhaps it's $3 for the pro version. And with this pro version, you can spend your coins to plant real trees. So when I was getting on to check my email on my phone, I was lessening the chances of being able to plant a real life tree. So that helps to boost it a little bit. So I'll put the link for that down below. Highly recommend it if the phone is something that gets in the way of distracting you. The other thing that I think distracts all writers is research. Maybe I should say research. Because so often I don't think that we need it. I know I don't need it. But it's when writing gets pretty hard and you're like, well, maybe I should just find some inspiration for this. Or would this be historically accurate? Which doesn't work if you're writing sci-fi like I am. So I separate my research and my writing time. And if I am trying to convince myself that while I'm writing, I desperately need to research something, too bad. I told myself I used my 30 minutes up on research already. It's time to move on. So write something incorrect and put brackets in to double check, or skip a scene, because for me, I know that research is really just procrastination. And I would guess probably for a lot of you guys too. And the last part of this is telling other people to leave you alone. I know that goes back to the first point as well, but I think it's really important, especially if you are trying to be overly polite. Maybe you're a Pacific Northwesterner like me too. It's really hard to tell people to go away. So instead, preempt it and tell people who are around you, like, I'm going to focus for X amount of time. Please let me get through it. Anything you can need can wait that amount of time. I mean, this is not me saying 4 hours. This is me being like, I'm going to have a focused 20 minutes. Don't talk to me. And that's much easier than when people are coming to me and wanting to just say a quick thing. I've already told them no, like, leave me be. I would say that that's the hardest one. But I think it's important as well. A do not disturb sign on the computer doesn't really send the same message as telling them to just go away. My fourth step is to track your goals. Here's my fancy. It's Tbilisi. Here's where I've been tracking my goals, and I separate out the long-term and the short-term goals. So at the top of my front page, I have my 2020 goals that I have not revisited for a while. No, they're still good to go. I have my long-term goals, and then I track my shorter-term goals. This is back when I was still editing. Goodness gracious. But keeping the long-term goals and the short-term goals separate is really helpful, because long-term feels a little bit intangible at times. So I like to have the ones that I feel like are far away and the ones that I feel like are immediate separated. So my long-term goals might include, or do include, things such as making a list of 5 more agents and preparing that round, to write a new book, to do another round of editing, although that is everyone done. And I have those as long-term goals, where short-term goals are going to be something that I can accomplish more quickly, such as finishing a chapter or a couple of chapters or editing a section. And what am I going to do that week as opposed to that year or beyond? For me, it's been year being the long-term goals and week being the short-term goals. Because thinking 5 years is just too nebulous for me to look at. The other important thing I want to mention is that these goals should be something that are in your control. So yeah, we all want to be agented and have best-selling books, but we can't really control that. So that's why instead of saying that I want to be agented, instead I say I want to make my list of agents that I'd like to query by the end of the year, or I'd like to prepare these 5 queries. I can control those things. I can't really control the reception that it's going to have, so I don't put that in my goal. I do have hopes at the bottom, but I made sure to say that my hopes and my goals are different things. So whatever way works for you, I think it's important though to look at the long term and the short term separately, so that you can have something that you're constantly accomplishing and also something that you're constantly looking forward to, and keeping the goals that you can actually control and you can do something about separate from your hopes, such as, well, it's been a rejection. Have you let's not talk about those. My fifth step is to build in rewards. Now, I could just list to you what works for me as rewards, but I don't think that's helpful for everyone. So I would say just make a list of what motivates you and then separate them by milestones. Like I said in my last video, word count isn't really my jam for setting goals, unless I'm sitting down and doing a short-term sprint, or it is a short-term word goal for that specific day that I make in the morning and I want to finish that day because I know how that day will kind of go. But instead I like to look at milestone goals, or I like to look at finishing a certain scene or a chapter. I'm realizing as I'm saying it, those are all milestone goals. But if word count works for you, then do that and find the rewards that work for you as well. A lot of my rewards are goodies. I find buying things to be very motivating. So new notebooks, new pens, they can be very simple things. New swag to make my videos with. You might have noticed that my last video was really low quality, but I told myself that I could not buy this tripod so I could then record on my phone until I had put a video up. So I had to put the terrible video up in order to make a slightly less terrible video this time. But this is how I get myself to do a stage. Otherwise, I do use my lack of resources as an excuse. Like, I can't organize this book yet because I don't have Scrivener. I have Scrivener now because I made myself write a certain number of chapters before I let myself have Scrivener to organize it in. If you don't know Scrivener, I'm going to link it below. It is a really helpful tool for me for keeping my chapters separated. Anyway, I'll just put it down below. You can have a look. But I wouldn't let myself purchase certain things until I passed certain milestones, because otherwise I would say, well, I can't until I have a new notebook or new pens or Scrivener or a tripod. And this keeps me from using these things as distractions, but it also lets me feel like I'm rewarding myself once I get somewhere. And my last step is to simply just celebrate. Celebrate with more than just rewards. Celebrate by talking about what you've accomplished to someone you care about, by blogging about it, by putting it on YouTube, by shouting it out your window at inappropriate times in the night. Just celebrate and appreciate that you have accomplished something. No matter what your milestone is that you've finished, you've done something important and you've done something good. Celebrate the good and celebrate the difficult also. Celebrate the rejections. I now tell someone about every single no that I get. And I started doing this, and it was really hard to put myself out there, but one of the very first people that I told about my rejections responded with a mazel tov. You've done it. That's one rejection closer to an acceptance, closer to a request, closer to whatever your long-term goals are. And this really made a big change for me, because even in celebrating the rejections, I'm celebrating not the fact that someone told me no, but I'm celebrating that I put myself out there and I'm still trying, and that I'm participating in this cycle of sending out my work and getting it back until it works. So give yourself a pat on the back, not just for the things that go well, but that when things don't go the way you hoped, that you haven't given up. That's it for now. I hope you found something useful in this video. Let me know how you keep yourself accountable in the comments, or check out the description and connect with me on one of my other social media platforms. However it is that you keep yourself going, good luck in your writing endeavors, and I'll see you next time.